figured as soon as I walked into that theater, it was gonna be Five Nights at Freddy's. That's where I wanna be, Five Nights at Freddy's. Or horror, 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 horror. I was getting ready. I brought the Glock, bro. I was like, yo, I'm finna strap up, because anyone who starts doing that dumb shit, they're gonna get shot up in this theater, man. Not really, right? Figuratively, but it was there. I might have had to pop them one or two times, all right? Because I was like, dude, there's no way I'm going to be in a theater full of these people, especially on Halloween weekend, right? I went at the end of Halloween weekend last night, and I was like, there's got to be like a bunch of people that are going to be up in this, movie. And then I saw all these cars, and I was like, all right, you know what? This might be a bad sign. Turns out I went with my homie. The theater that we went in was completely empty. There's only like a little family there of like 4 people behind us. We were in the second top row, the correct row to be, right in the middle. And we watched the movie, no interruptions, no BS, no nothing. And we got to watch it, and I gotta say, man, this movie is good. It's a fun time. Now, is the movie great? Is it gonna blow you away as a FNAF fan? Is it gonna blow you away just as a horror fan? I don't know. Maybe it might. Maybe it might. You never know. But it didn't do it for me. But I thought it was a good. I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was fun. I had a good time. The only real complaints or criticisms I have are just more so based on, I feel like there could have been some extra potential that was missed out that could have been taken, and it would have elevated the film even higher for my score. But I think it's a good movie. I think it's fun. I think it did a good job. I feel like they did definitely read up on the FNAF lore, and they incorporated it pretty well into the story. It was well integrated. You have a good set of characters. All the characters are pretty good. There's no really any bad characters in the movie per se. It's got some good jump scares in there. It's got, PG-13, so you're not going to see any real violence or gore. You're going to see the aftermath of some gore and some attacks, and you're going to see some blood here and there, but nothing crazy. But it's still effective, so you'll still have a good time. And all the animatronics look good. So people who are worried about the animatronic effects, unless you're super nitpicky, I thought it looked fine. I didn't have any problem with the way the animatronics looked. The way they moved, I thought was perfectly fine, looked perfectly good. Even, there's one specific animatronic that is able to kind of move on its own, and it's not moving in a typical way. I thought that looked fine as well. So I had no problems involving anything with the animatronic movements. I thought the effects were good. I thought the direction they took the story was good. And I feel like this is a real fun time. If you want to go during Halloween, or if you haven't already, get some of your friends, load up on them snacks and popcorns, whether they were brought in from outside the theater or whether you bought it for an arm and a leg inside, all right? Make sure you load up on snacks. Make sure you got some good company, and go and watch this movie and have a fun time. Just enjoy yourself. Don't think about it too deeply. Just enjoy it for what it is, and you're going to come out happy. That's what I would say. So what did I give this movie overall as a score before I start going into depth about why I, liked it the way I did? Well, I give it a 7.5 out of 10. Now, that may not seem that high. 7.5 out of 10 might not seem that high for people. But the thing is, it's a good movie. And 7.5 is basically, this is a good work to me. This is a good, story. This is a good execution of whatever it's going for. This is a good time in the theater. It just represents basically what I thought about the entire film and how much enjoyment I had going to it for what its purpose was. It's a 7.5 out of 10. I think it's a good movie. I think it's fun. This is going to be one that you remember. I think it'll still be pretty memorable of a movie to you. And again, we live in an age, and I just got to highlight this. We live in an age now where you either got to love something or you got to hate it for you to really have an opinion about something. That's not how it works, and I don't agree with that at all. I think that you can find things either mid or meh or decent or good or pretty good or, damn good. Not great. You didn't love it, but it's, it's pretty damn good. And this is one of those cases. I think it's a good film. I think it does its job. I think it's a little bit, standard of a horror movie if you don't know about the lore. But if you like the lore, if you like FNAF like me, I know about the previous 4 games. My homie, my best friend for many, many years, over a decade now, who I went to go see this movie with because he's a big FNAF head as well. We liked it because there's a lot of lore in there. There's some cool cameos from people in the YouTube community who covered FNAF. And you get some good pieces of information from the original games and some mechanic things that I think are pretty well done. This is not something where they're just taking an IP and completely twisting it. Goosebumps Disney Plus, right? But this is actually pretty faithful to the actual games and the lore, and it just expands upon it. And the stuff that feels kind of out there for you are more so things that were mentioned in the games but never explored because they're not actually a part of the game mechanics. So you're actually kind of getting some behind the scenes stuff from the games in here, which that's part of the reason why I added to the, making it, instead of a 7 out of 10, the direction that they went in incorporating everything so well. I think it's a 7.5 out of 10. This is an above average, a horror film for teenagers and adults, and I think you would pretty much enjoy it. So what is this story about? A lot of you may know about the FNAF games. This one kind of makes into an all Unity story. So basically you have this guy named Mike Schmidt, and Mike Schmidt is from the first Five Nights at Freddy's game. He's the original security guard. And Mike Schmidt basically is working the security job at a local mall that he works in. And what ends up happening is that he gets into this incident where he sees this father taking a kid into, away somewhere because that kid was distracted by something. And Mike ends up mistaking that father as a stranger trying to kidnap the kid. So he runs, chases him down, and he starts beating up, the father starts beating him up, and he doesn't realize that it's his father until the kid starts screaming. And he eventually gets fired, suspended, fired from the job because, he broke the rules. And at first you're kind of like, what's up with this guy? Is he like edgy? Is he like, why is he so on edge? Why is he sort of out there, so depressed, all these things? And as he's looking for new jobs, you start figuring out more of his life story. So you figure out that this guy, Mike Schmidt, is very much obsessed with dreams. He's very much into dreaming. And the reason why he's into dreaming is because there's something that happened to him when he was a younger kid. I'm not going to say what exactly the specifics were because it is quite important to the plot. It's brought up a bunch of times. Something happened to him as a kid on a family camping trip, which may or may not have involved the disappearance of his younger brother. And that incident basically ingrained within his head and made him super paranoid for the rest of his life. And since they were never able to solve the mystery of what happened to his younger brother and save him, he always dreams, and he puts these posters of, things that remind him of the day of when it happened as a kid, and he puts on noises that puts him back in that, memory, because he wants to relive the same dream over and over again, relive that memory as a dream. And he's hoping that by doing that, following this dream theory that he read up on, you can reenact the full, there's a law of the theory. The theory is that everything you experience in the real world will be ingrained within your head, and that can be brought back in dreams. So he's trying to use it as a way to do detective work, to try to find details that could possibly uncover what happened to the disappearance of his younger brother, and maybe that can help him crack the case of it, even though it's been a long, long time and he's a fully grown adult now. And the reason why that he keeps working all these jobs is, one, because he has a younger sister, and his mom died, and I believe his dad committed suicide, or something happened to his dad that was tragic. And what ends up happening is that since his parents are gone, he has to end up becoming the parental figure by force for his little sister, and he's protecting her. His little sister is a very quiet girl, very innocent, very kind. She draws a lot, and he feels like because he was forced into that situation, a brother becoming, father and mother, parental role figure, basically he feels like he doesn't get respected by her. She doesn't really care about him. She never talks to him. She kind of rebels against him and is quiet and doesn't listen to him. So he becomes very frustrated, obviously. But as he's speaking to counselors at schools and talking to other people, they explain to him, like, in all of her drawings, she's drawing you. You are the main, focus of her life. She loves you. You're the center of her life. You're the backbone to her life. So even though she's a kid and she's kind of shy and she's introverted and she can't express it, she does love you dearly. And he works all these different jobs and tries to do it so that way he can support her and take care of her. Because if he cannot support her, financially, if he cannot take care of her, if he's not a fit parental guardian, what's going to end up happening is, his aunt is going to end up taking her for custody, and she does not like the aunt. He does not like the aunt. She's a very kind of, basically to put it, she's a Karen, she's a bitch, she's a Karen, she's a horrible person. And he cannot, give her away because that'll ruin her life, that'll ruin his life. So he does everything he can to protect her. And what ends up happening is he ends up finding another job opportunity, which is working at Five Nights at Freddy's, the pizzeria. as a security guard for the night shift. Now this place is abandoned, but the owner has not given up on it, so this may ring some bells. And that way Mike Schmidt has to take care of and look at the property, every single night for his night shift, 5 nights a week. And what ends up happening is that, because of the pressure coming on from him potentially losing custody of his little sister, his aunt kind of manipulating him and trying to barge within his life and do this stuff, he basically decides to take on the job, even though he told himself before he's not going to do night shifts because he can't look after, his sister and, take care of him. So he hires a babysitter, gets the job. And as he goes to the job, he finds out how much of a creepy place it is. He sees, the animatronics all turned off. He finds out some of the weird details involving the camera systems, the electricity, and he meets a police officer there, this girl police officer who works around that area. And she seems to be very familiar with Freddy. She knows about all the different security guards who basically quit or went missing or, did not get tied to this place. You actually have a scene in the very beginning of the film, which I kind of left out because I didn't want to spoil, that's kind of a big scene. But you kind of see one security guard and what happens to him, and that's presumably the security guard right before Mike Schmidt starts working. So this place is dangerous. Potentially it's haunted. Some stuff is going on. And as he starts speaking with a police officer and starts investigating, he starts realizing more and more that there may be more than meets the eye. There's more than meets the eye to these animatronics. And as he's having these dreams to try to, recollect more information about the day that his little brother disappeared on the camping trip, he starts seeing these 5 kids in his dream, these 5 random kids who are basically targeting him. He thinks they may have information about the event, but they're not telling him. They start to begin hurting him and rebelling against him, and you start finding out the true horrors of Five Nights at Freddy's Fazbear's Pizzeria very quickly. So yeah, that's where I'm going to leave it. You're going to find out more. A lot of you may already know because you've played the games. Some of you may be aware of the meme culture. Horror. Some stuff going on, right? So I'm not going to bother you with that, going into detail, potentially spoiling it for anybody who doesn't know about, what happens regarding it. But yeah, the place got killer animatronics. There may be some haunted kids in there. There might be a very, very dark past involving murder and homicide and stuff like that involving the location back in the day. And this is all stuff that, this kind of lore has been sprinkled throughout the main 4 games, and now it's kind of all wrapped up into one film. And what are my positives and negatives about it? So obviously I said I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. This is a good film. There are a lot of positives that do come with this movie. First of all, the main character, Mike Schmidt, and the girl, who's also the main character, and the police officer, who's also kind of like a main character, they're all great. I think that they're great characters. I don't have any problems with them. I think Mike Schmidt, his actor, I forgot the name, but he played in the Hunger Games. Peeta. He plays Peeta in the Hunger Games. He plays this kind of very how do you say it, like stoic kind of guy on the edge. Like he's kind of like very sad all the time, very dark, doesn't show much emotion. He's not very expressive, doesn't really comment much, but I think he plays the role pretty well. You get the backstory as to what happened to him as a kid involving his family. He's been through a lot of dark shit, and the fact that he has to take care of his younger sister, he's forced into this uncomfortable situation. You understand very well why he is the way he is. And you kind of do get that sense of him being this protective figure, this guy who looks after her. And you can tell that he loves his little sister. You get a lot of sweet, wholesome moments between the two. The little girl who plays the little sister, she did a great job. She's a very innocent, very, kind of embodiment of, child innocence. She's always drawing these pictures. She always has this natural connection to the supernatural. She does a great job acting. She has good scenes with the older brother, Mike. You can tell that she loves her brother. They feel pretty natural between each other, considering all the stuff that they went through. And the police officer actually might be the most underrated character in this story because she does a great job with her acting role. And this also does not play a part that she's very attractive as well. That definitely does not play a part into my ranking whatsoever. But yeah, she does a great job acting. And you find out that she knows maybe more about this place than meets the eye. She's very secretive. She's looking after Mike and making sure that, he's protected. She doesn't want him to be like the other security guards that either had to leave or disappeared or something bad happened to them. And she's very much aware of like the potential dangers that could be within this pizzeria. Now, do you know fully what she knows? No, that's never fully said until the climax, in which case her position in all of this kind of becomes clear. But she does play a good kind of guidance figure, guidance role. It reminds me a lot of the security guard voice that you hear in the FNAF 1 game, where it's kind of giving you all these directions, telling you this kind of guidance, what to do. And, obviously you kind of get this like best friend / romantic, kind of relationship building up and going on between the police officer and Mike. And it's very natural. I didn't have any problem with it. It felt very good. So that's why I said that the main trio of main characters in this film all do a good job. I like the dream sequences. The dream sequences involving Mike Schmidt's past and how it ties to, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria and its traumatic past involving, the dark stuff that happened, the homicide, potential murders, disappearances, stuff like that. It all ties in very well. I think the idea of including dream theory, where everything you see within the natural world gets collected within your mind and you can recollect that, see the whole event within detail within your dreams and collect evidence. That's a very, very cool way to do detective work. And I really have to actually commend the directors and producers of this movie, because that's a very cool way to do detective work. I've never seen detective work like that, where you're using, the idea of dream theory, all this information jumbo within your mind, and going back to that as a source of solving mysteries. I've heard of these kind of phenomenons in real life, but seeing it within movies or films is not really something that I see often. So that was very commendable and cool. Another positive is the animatronics. The Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria is a very cool set. It's very dark, dingy, scary. It is very ominous. It has a creepy atmosphere. And the animatronics are well done. When you see them in motion, they look very good. They don't look really junky at all. I like the way that they move around. It looks very ominous. People had a problem with the red eye thing. Seeing it in the movie, the red eye thing is not that big of a deal. I think it's quirky, I know that's a joke in the Five Nights at Freddy's 1 game, where the animatronics get quirky at night. They're just a little bit quirky, they got some gimmicks to them. The kills are pretty cool, although this can play a little bit into my criticism about it, but I think that they overall did a good job. The animatronics hit, the setting and atmosphere hits, the characters hit. Some of the side characters are okay, they're not that memorable. The main villain kind of gets, shown towards the climax, and he was good in the beginning, but let me talk about my criticisms now, because the few criticisms I have about the film, some of them are nitpicks, some of them are more so like, I feel like they could have actually aided in helping the film. The first one is that I wish they would have included more auditory scares in the actual movie. When you play Five Nights at Freddy's, there's a lot of audio glitching noises that you hear from the camera systems. You hear, you get humming and singing in the film, but it's not that ominously done. Like it's kind of eerie, but it's not as creepy as it is when you're playing the games. There's a lot of auditory fake outs. There's a lot of tricks that happen. There's a lot of strange noises, and you hear them from the mini games. You hear it from the camera systems. You hear it from the animatronics moving around at night. Those audio cues could have been used within the film, and I feel like they would have enhanced the creepiness of the atmosphere. Because visually you're going to be scared. Like, obviously, killer animatronics moving around, basically Chuck E. Cheese as a horror film, that's going to be terrifying. First of all, a Chuck E. Cheese horror film, I know we got creepypastas and animations and stuff like that. An actual FNAF done with Chuck E. Cheese and those creepy-ass motherfucking mascots, bro, that would be terrifying. But here, I feel like if they would have used auditory scares and kind of those noises and glitches, it would have added to the atmosphere of the film. But that's kind of like a nitpick. That doesn't take too much away from the film. I just felt like it would have been a nice add-on, because that is a kind of a big feature in the games for the immersion aspect. Another thing that I felt like could have helped out the film, which is kind of like, this is kind of my main criticism for the film, and although it still does a good job, this is definitely something that I felt like could have enhanced the film much further. We could have done the full impact and weight of the event going on, which is it needed to be R-rated. This was a PG-13 film. Although it does sometimes push it where you see the aftermath of gore, which is pretty gnarly. Like seeing the aftermath of gore and certain things is creepy and dark. Now that kind of pushes PG-13, but you don't actually see the kills. You don't actually see, guts and gore and stuff like that, which may not seem like a big deal, but when you play the FNAF games and you know about the lore, there's a lot of dark, brutal violence that's within the story. There's homicide, there's these dark murders. There's like saw traps. I mean, you see it within the film, kind of like the saw trap aspects, but there's a lot of saw trap things involving the Five Nights at Freddy's lore universe. There's a certain famous event that involves a failure, which you may or may not see in the film. That certain failure is kind of shown accurately, but because it's PG-13, you don't get the actual true disturbing violence, the Saw movie franchise level of torture that comes with that certain failure scene. And if you've looked up this failure on YouTube, you'll see animations of it. You'll hear the audio of it from the game. You'll hear all these things. And when you see those representations, it is one of the most terrifying things you'll ever see. It is an actual saw trap, like one of the worst saw traps you could ever see a person go through. That's what this person goes through, involving a certain failure within the FNAF lore. I'm gonna leave it at that. If this was R-rated, you would have seen the blood, you would have heard the screaming, you would have heard the full-on gore that would come from that. You don't get that in this film because it's restricted. You hear screaming and noises and stuff, but it's not as traumatic as the original in-game audio. So that kind of holds back for me. And also the fact you don't actually see a lot of the kills and the stuff that happens, not that level of gore that you would have expected from, knowing about the FNAF lore being adapted. That does hold back from the film getting a higher score. I feel like that definitely could have added to it. And then another one of my main complaints, which kind of holds back, is that the climax reveals the main villain. A lot of people who've played the FNAF games know about the main villain. They know about the story. You see that character in a way before their most famous portrayal of a certain character appears. Basically, there's a certain animatronic in Five Nights at Freddy's that is well known for one of the later games, and that animatronic is the main villain who caused all the traumatic stuff in the past of, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. All the, homicides and stuff that happened is tied to this character. This character is tied to this animatronic, and you kind of see it in an in-between stage where it was when, they were putting on something and, they were acting out. That's what you see as the main villain. It's not actually the animatronic that everybody was expecting. That animatronic is hinted towards being in a potentially sequel movie when you see a certain failure scene happen. His acting was not good. The actor who played him, his acting felt kind of hokey. It kind of felt corny at times. Like, I remember watching it, I'm like, this doesn't feel like a genuinely creepy, very ominous, creepy figure who's tied to homicide and serial killing and abduction and all this stuff. It didn't feel like a real, villain, like a real criminal, like a real... It felt like this very kind of hokey, cartoon Joker portrayal, and it didn't really hit me. Even my friend and I, we both commented, and my friend is a lot more lenient with stuff, right? Me and him watching it, we're kind of like, yeah, the acting's not that good. It's a little bit hokey. Me and my friend liked the rest of the movie. We were having a lot of fun during the rest of the movie. We were kind of freaking out at certain jump scares, enjoying the characters and stuff, trying to figure out where the story was going. But that climax scene is pretty weak. It's not that good. It's a sort of basic. It's sort of meh. Kind of falls flat. But yeah, that's all I really have for the movie. Those are just my main critiques. But again, they're not huge critiques. They're just avenues that I felt like could have increased the potential, goodness of the movie. Overall, it's still an enjoyable time. I think you guys should all check it out. If you have a fear of Chuck E. Cheese and animatronics, for sure play the FNAF games. For sure, maybe check out some of the books. I heard the books have very convoluted lore, but just go watch this movie, go play the games. You'll enjoy it. And for any of you wondering about fan service, there's a lot of fan service. There's a lot of references to stuff. You do get cameos of two big YouTubers that are going to be in it, and you'll recognize them right away. And they have pretty good, funny scenes involved. So shout out to those two YouTubers. You probably already know who they are from all the news, but yeah, shout out to them. Shout out to the fan service, done in a creative way, integrated well into the story, and overall a great Halloween film. So shout out to that. It's not really a Halloween film, obviously, but with how much it kind of embodies the Halloween spirit and what we kind of go for in terms of scares, I think that Blumhouse did a good job. And yeah, I would put this as another W under Blumhouse's repertoire, 7.5 out of 10. If you enjoyed this film review, I believe this is my very first, maybe I think official horror film review that's not kids horror related. So yeah, this is my first kind of high school adult horror film review. So hit that like button down below, hit that subscribe button. It's free, right? Red is the hat. Hit them till they're red. Hit those right down below. And yeah, if you like these reviews, if you like kids horror, if you like my other stuff, check out my reviews down below. I'm going to be coming out with more horror film reviews going forward. So look forward to some of those. I'm probably going to be doing some more recent movies than going back to old ones. I did watch stuff like Creepshow 1, 2, and 3, so I can review those, Tales from the Dark Side, stuff like that. Halloween Town. So more movie reviews are going to be coming out. But yeah, right now for a channel update, I'm kind of busy with midterms, so I don't know if I'm going to be uploading tomorrow for Halloween or not. I'll try to. I'll probably get a video out, but I don't know if I'm going to be uploading too much this week because I have a big midterm coming up. So yeah, but stay tuned. There's going to be more fun stuff to come. And if not this week, next week, I'll be dropping more content. So yeah, that's all I have for today. Deuces. I mean, seriously, yo, I swear to God, if somebody would have been in that theater going horror, 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 or doing any type of dumb shit, I would have hit them with the spring lock failure, all right? And I'm not talking about the actual spring lock failure. I would have shoved their ass into one of those warm, heated, wonderful reclining chairs, and I would have fucked their ass up all the way, all right? That's how it would have gone, okay? Five Nights at Freddy's. Yeah, that's where I want to be.